Raider Nation. Welcome to another edition of the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Pondress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football, especially with a great Raider fan like Murf Murphy.
Hey, it may be the off season, but talking Raider football is always in season.
Never a time where it isn't. Today on the show, we will review some of the season's comings and goings with the Raiders. There is not much happening right now, but we are getting ready to get ready for free agency. We also have a very special interview to present to you as we bring in our buddy Murf from Raider Fan Radio and Murf's Fan Cave. And we'll also be taking a pause because this week, we're recording on Tuesday. Now, the reason we're recording on Tuesday is because Tom, T3, has a birthday tomorrow on Wednesday. And Wednesday is when we normally record. And his wife has, God knows what she has planned for him, but we don't get him tomorrow. However,
she rules the
yeah,
roost.
she had him first. However, there is another birthday staring us in the nose. Anybody guess?
I think I had a hint on this one earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Baby Jax.
Baby Jack was born October 2nd.
Oh.
It's like staring us right under our nose.
Does it have anything to do with the name Heidi?
Well, technically, it does a little.
Okay, I'm not going any further than that. I'm going to hold my cards as they are.
Well, you see, I have to tell you guys this week because next week the birthday will already be over. And that birthday is our birthday.
Oh,
happy birthday to us.
Man.
It is our birthday on Friday. Friday, January 22nd is our very first birthday.
You mean I get 2 birthdays in the same week?
You get 2 birthdays in the same week.
Awesome.
Now, we have nothing planned. I just thought it was pretty dang cool that I even figured that out.
That is cool. Happy birthday, us.
Can I say that next year for our birthday, I want playoffs?
Works for me. We want playoffs tickets next year.
Absolutely.
All right, radio contact guy.
All right, Raider Nation. We want to hear from you. So here's how you can get in touch with us. Give us a call at the Only Nation Podcast voicemail line at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Give us a call, Raider Nation.
Here's the latest Raider news.
At the end of last week, the new defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, was interviewed as part of a roundtable discussion, which can be found on YouTube. In the interview, Gus talked about some of the selling points that made him accept his new role and how excited he is to come to Vegas.
You know, I wanted Wade Phillips, but I'll take Gus Bradley. You know me, I'm always going to find a positive spin on something, you know. I'm Raider Homer. That's the way I am. But he was involved with the Legion of Boom. You know, he's had some good defenses everywhere he's went, middle of the pack. You know, Gunther hasn't been that, you know, successful. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. The reports are coming out that he's really good at coaching young talent. And our young players on defense need that kind of coaching. Put them in the right position to make a play, make it easier for them. Let them go out there and be aggressive, make tackles, and get the football. So I'm going to give him a chance.
And my big thing is we're stealing a talent from within the division. So he knows the Chargers up one side, down in the other, but he knows the Chiefs and the Broncos. So he's going to put that to work for the Raiders, and I see good things down the road.
Excellent point.
Right, and also announced last week, Raiders owner Mark Davis has purchased the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces from MGM International, increasing the Davis family footprint in the Las Vegas area. The Aces made it all the way to the WNBA Finals in 2020 before losing to the Seattle Storm.
I've got to say this too. Mark Davis has been very active in supporting this basketball team from the get-go. And they were really happy to have him on board anyway. And it's kind of a no-brainer when you look at it. So now you've got the Golden Knights, which is kind of like the brother of the Raiders. And now you've got the Las Vegas Aces, which is kind of like the sister to the Raiders. So it's all in the family.
You know, speaking of family, right, the Davis family has had a rich history of success and some years of, not being successful. A lot of people have attacked Mark Davis and his ability to be a businessman. And, it was pretty unfair. And I think that this is vindication for those that kind of stood up for Mark within the Raider Nation, as far as him being, us believing that he was a pretty decent businessman. Because we've talked about that a lot on this podcast. And he's doing great things for the Raider Nation, the Raiders, and now for his family. So I hope, that he is very successful in the WNBA. And, it's great to have a sister now in the Raider Nation, as far as professional teams.
And Raiders fans, be sure to check out the new 30 for 30 put out by ESPN. In their most recent effort, set to air on February 4th, the program will feature Al Davis and his constant battle against the NFL. The special is entitled simply Al Davis versus the NFL, and it should give everyone a good idea about the non-negotiables that Al Davis had in his commitment to excellence.
I can't wait for this. I always love watching anything that has to do with Al Davis. Not necessarily a fan of ESPN, but they got me ready to watch this show. Al Davis did a lot of great things, so it's important to remember that, but it's also important to remember that he gave, the middle finger to the NFL and took on the establishment. So that's an awesome thing to see.
And all I can add to that is really, when you talk about Al Davis, you talk about not only the development of football in the city of Oakland and the East Bay, but really the development of the NFL in general. He had his hand in so many different aspects of the development of the game. And so many people have talked about how Al Davis not only changed the game, but really opened the eyes of so many people, fans and owners alike. And so I'm really looking forward to this.
And now we want to bring you a special interview with Murf of Murf Raiders Fan Radio and Murf's Fan Cave. In addition to being a Raider podcaster for nearly a decade now, he is also the co-founder of the One Nation Foundation, a charitable foundation that gathers money to support other charities, such as the XOXO Stabler Foundation and the Bolitnikoff Foundation. We hope you enjoy this interview, and we would really like for you to give us a call and give us your feedback. Our guest today requires really no introduction, mainly because I don't have much of an introduction. You guys will know who he is, though. I'm talking about Murf. Murf, Raider Fan Radio, Murf.
Glad to be here. Appreciate y'all having me on your show tonight, man. Of course, we've recently made acquaintances and gotten to know each other from a distance, but I've known Homer now for a few years. Got to meet him in person at the draft. And was that 2018, Homer?
Yeah. And then we met again week 1 home opener in 2020. So it was awesome to see, man. I saw that you were doing putting in work with Cody that game. So
yeah, man. Yeah, that was cool. It was great to see you that night. Great to see Raider Nation. Unfortunately, we never got a chance to this year to celebrate as a fan base, right? To celebrate the opening of Allegiant Stadium or doing a road game or anything like that. But it sure was nice to get together with everybody at Stage Door Casino and at least celebrate the big win against the Saints with Raider Nation, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, it was, dude. It was packed. Cisco Ortega got me into there, man. It was cool. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Even though we couldn't get in the game, Raider Nation showed up that week. Lots of meeting up at the tailgates and all this and that, in the parking lot. It was fun. It was a great time.
And for our fans out there listening, this may be the only time you'll hear a Raiders-related interview where you've got one person in D.C., one person in Tennessee, one person in Texas, and one in Alaska.
Next week, we're going to have a pretty wide variety as well.
That's right.
But you'll have to stay tuned to find out who that is.
All right. Let's light this candle.
Yeah, Murf, once again, thanks for coming on the Only Nation podcast, man. We really appreciate your time. So, with that being said, what got you into podcasting in the first place, and where does your love for the Raiders come from? And can you talk about the Fan Cave a little?
Yeah. So, well, appreciate you asking. So, yeah, first off, like I mentioned, Fan Cave is my podcast network. And, it's mainly Raiders Fan Radio. It's our flagship show. That's myself and my co-host, my real life Uncle Mosh, and my best friend Swag Jeff. And it evolved from a Madden podcast I used to do with my cousin Sonny, and you'll still hear cousin Sonny every once in a while show up and do some stuff with me. We do another show called the Raiders Fan Radio RFR Rundown, and Sonny will jump in and help me with that once in a while, or he'll just jump in on Raiders Fan Radio sometimes. Anyways, cousin Sonny and I started podcasting together way back in 2012, and then we did that Madden show, and we were just basically, because we grew up big fans of Dan Patrick and Rich Eisen and Jim Rome and and all the Bay Area guys, from Gary Radnich and Ralph Barbieri and being kids from San Jose, growing up around all those old school guys. We always had a gravity towards sports talk. And so we used to run this Madden league where we had 32 live owners in this Madden league. And we thought it would be kind of fun to do like a radio show around our Madden league. So we had an audience of 30 people because 2 of the guys were doing the show, right? So we only did this show for the 30 people in it and had so much damn fun. And, there's that whole theory about like you got to put in, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell, who we were talking about pre-show, about the 10,000 hours. Like you got to put in 10,000 hours to become like really good at something and to become really proficient at something. And so we kind of like honed our podcasting vibe and our skill set on doing this little show. But we always ended up talking so much about the Raiders because that's where our passion was. That's where our love is. And so it just kind of morphed over time to these different shows. We called it the Raiders Repertoire for a minute. We called it the Raiders Fancast for a minute. And then I got sued. And so then ultimately it became Raiders Fan Radio. And then I didn't want to get sued for using the name Raiders. So then we started calling it Murf's Fan Cave. And then ultimately Raiders Fan Radio remained the flagship show. So that's where it started. My cousin Sonny and I, his dad, rest in peace, OG Raider fan. My dad, rest in peace, was a huge sports nut, loved all kinds of sports teams, especially the Oakland A's and the Raiders. And then I had another uncle who actually his nickname was Murf. And he was the Murf of the family. And then he passed away. And all these guys that were like these iconic Raider fans that brought me into the fandom from the time I knew the Raiders were a thing. As soon as I was old enough to know what the Raiders were, I became a fan. And so to kind of honor him, Uncle Mosh suggested that I take that moniker of Murf. So that's where my name came from. And then but basically it's one big giant family thing. I literally went to the Oakland Coliseum before I was born. My mom was pregnant at the 72 World Series to go watch the A's. And so I was there in utero at the Oakland Coliseum. So literally this thing has just been a part of my life, for as long as I can remember, and no better way than to, celebrate that fandom that I've grown up with than with people of Raider Nation. And that's what our show and our network has become, is a celebration of fandom. And so it's been a really, really cool blessing and a really cool experience.
So you're a Raider from the womb. Not many people can say that.
I know, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, man. It's my grandmother, my mom, the entire, family is just diehard sports fans, but especially, A's and East Bay sports, A's, Raiders, Warriors. Sharks weren't a thing back then. So I really didn't grow up a hockey fan in California. It wasn't until now I live in Middle Tennessee and I kind of root for the Predators. Yeah. So my whole family was just absolutely diehard East Bay sports fans.
My family still thinks I'm super weird for the sports thing. They probably think without the sports thing, but the sports thing on top of it really makes them think I'm super weird. Oh, well. I love me the way I am.
So that's cool, Murf. You grew up in Raider Nation. You podcast for Raider Nation. You do a lot for Raider Nation, man. So why do you do that? And give us some examples of what makes that worthwhile.
Wow. Well, it's funny that over the years of doing the show, I've become a bigger fan of Raider Nation than I am the Raiders. And that may sound crazy. Don't get me wrong. My fandom for the team never wanes, but my fandom of fans is bigger. I love what people do with their fandom. I love the creativity that surrounds Raider Nation. I believe is unmatched in any sports fan base and in any sport across the globe. When you look at from the art to, podcasts and the creators that make all the different audio things, the music that comes out of it. There's some the Fan Cave here. we do the show in my little studio here, the whole wall behind me is covered with art, with things that that folks have sent me, things that they've made. You know, like most recently, one of our listeners, Michelle Sweat, she gave me a pirate ship. She built a pirate ship from the ground up, and it has like on the shields on the side of like the warship, you know, it's got the dates for the Raiders Super Bowls, and it's got a big giant copy of the Autumn Wind in it, and these skulls, and like there's a dice that's on there, like a die, and it's to the numbers 2-4, like for Woodson, her favorite player. Like it's all painted up silver and black, and there's a plank on there, and walking the plank is a lightning bolt, a donkey leg, and in a French fries thing, because we always are making fun of the Chiefs being McDonald's colors. The creativity around this thing, it's so awesome. And so that's my favorite thing. And that's like, so, you know, Raider Nation, we say it all the time, Raider Nation is family, but it really is like when you go to a tailgate on the road, especially of course, at the Oakland Coliseum. We haven't experienced Vegas yet, but anytime you like what we were talking about at Stage Door that night, that experience of community is to me what defines this fandom. And then, and I'll even give you a little bit more on that. The biggest thing to me, the biggest thing that like when I first really like locked into what Raider Nation was when I really started getting familiar with the fan clubs and the booster clubs. When we first started the show, we made it a point to reach out to a lot of the different club presidents and to have them on. And what was fascinating to me was that this was a 24/7, 365 thing for them, and they all gave back. This wasn't just about getting together on a Sunday and drinking beer and eating chicken wings at a local sports bar. All these clubs, like yours, Homer, like your Central Texas club, like there's so many clubs that are doing things even in the off season. They're marching in parades. They're doing highway cleanup. They're giving to charities. They're adopting families. They're doing all these wonderful things in their communities that's truly nationwide or global. And like, that was fascinating to me. And I was like, wow, like if that doesn't, like anybody can say it like, oh, this fan base is family. Yeah, you can say that, but what do you do? Like, what do your actions say? And as I've gotten older, I become much less interested in what people have to say and much more interested in what they do. And Raider Nation does. That's hands-on, and they're doing their best ability to make their communities better, not just even where the team lives, but all over the world. And that just to me, like Silver and Black UK, like it fascinates me. That you have the craziest hardcore Raider fans that have never even been to the United States. And like, but they're doing these amazing charitable things. And it just, I love it, man. So anyways, I hope that wasn't too long of an answer. I talk a lot.
Right, man. It's great, man. Let it out, dude.
But like, man, it's so fun, man. I love that. I love the community and what the family, it really is La Familia, man. It's no joke.
Yeah, man. That's the great thing about the Raider Nation is that we are about giving back. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. You know, we have Heidi's Hero, which always celebrates, you know, somebody that's with the organization or involved with the organization doing good things, good deeds. You know, and like as far as my chapter here, the Black Hole here in Austin, Texas, yeah, man, we want to, like, we got the Texas Pit Crew coming up. We did the costume drive. I was inspired by, you know, people like Mob Boss and you and Violator, you know, and Gorilla and like Cynthia IE, Raider Nation Wrecking Crew. Like, she's always feeding the homeless. That's what she does, man. It's like she's just always going around feeding the homeless, helping out the community. And, you know, a lot of it comes from trying to repair that image, you know, that bad boy image that we got from the 80s and the early 90s, you know. But it really is fascinating how we become a family and we give back to our community all because we like a football team. You know what I mean? And a football team that's been losing the whole time, but I think that's what really contributes to the Raider Nation coming together. You know, so yes, the Raider Nation is a fantastic, you know, fan base to be a part of.
Absolutely. You know, I say it all the time, like, you know, like, look, Raider Nation, look, there ain't no doubt, like, not only is our team, but our fan base, there's a bunch of badasses. Well, you can be a badass and be nice at the same time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can still be tough and kind. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so I love that idea that, like, yes, we can represent as the villains of the league, but we can still do cool things in our communities and still do outreach and still do all those things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just love the way that, like you said, it was in spirit of repairing that image, but really, like, I don't even think it needs repairing anymore, because anybody that's been around a Raider fandom, the Raider fandom for long, you walk through one freaking tailgate, like, and I know it's not the Oakland Coliseum anymore, but if anybody ever were to question it, walk through one freaking tailgate at the Oakland Coliseum and see if you need for anything. You don't. Like, it's literally one giant family. You can go sit down at any pop-up tent, at any cookout, anywhere, and the whole thing, and you would be welcome.
Just don't drink too much beer.
And, I can't wait to see what that looks like when we get to Vegas eventually. I'm not really going to count this year because of COVID, but when it's off the chain in Vegas, I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be curious. That was one of the things that I think a lot of us fans lamented, was the idea that, we weren't going to have that same game day experience potentially, and I think that there's going to be so much of it that's going to be like corporate, right? Like, I remember when it first came up and a lot of people were like, where are we going to tailgate? I'm like, I don't know, Caesars? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you'll be at the freaking some giant bar club thing, whatever, and then you'll just, take a lift over to the stadium and go, like, you know what I mean? So, but I don't know if, like, because the limited amount of tailgating, if there's going to be more of a corporate style to, I don't know. I don't think you can possibly replicate the tailgate, and I don't think you can replicate the black hole. I think you can try, but I don't think you're ever going to get the organic nature of those two things into what they were, because, that came up from us. That came up from Raiders fans, and now anything else is going to be fabricated. So I'm with you. It will be interesting. It will be a different experience. I think it will be great, but it's not going to be what we're used to. I can't imagine it.
Right. No, that's what made those tailgates in Oakland legendary, was all the people getting together. And you know what? One thing I want to thank you for, Murf, is like you introduced me to Steve, Houston Raider Steve. And from there, he invited me to do the flag unfurling because he was a season ticket holder, all because of the podcast and the Raider Nation connecting together and stuff like that. So, a great story came from, the Raider Nation looking out for each other in our endeavors. And yeah, and the tailgating will never be the same, but, hopefully we got to experience it.
I'm still excited to see what happens, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be different, but different always doesn't always mean bad, right? Like, It'll just be a different experience. Like, just like Allegiant Stadium is clearly much different than the Oakland Coliseum. There's no poo running through the dugouts. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a much different experience, but that doesn't mean it's going to be bad. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
You just need to build a huge parking lot out in the desert.
I know, right? Like, if you go out there, like when we were out there, Homer, did you get a chance to go to the stadium? Like, you go, like, it's not like there's a lot around it. It's like, wait a minute. There's like this out there's nothing but sand. Like, go make a parking lot over there so we can tailgate. But I don't think they want that.
We were in the parking lots. We were in the D lot over there, at Allegiant Stadium, and we were taking pictures, and the news camera, or the camera crew showed up and all that. It's still going to be there, but it's not going to be like walking through all those tailgates with the barbecue pits and all the free beer. It's not going to be like that, but people are still going to be there. But it won't be the same. But it's still going to be awesome, though. I had a great time in Vegas.
I did too. I love Vegas, and I love Vegas as an NFL city, especially as a Raiders city. I think that speaking of being the league villains, right? Like, what better than to go to Sin City? Like, I love like the symmetry there. I love the way that works. I don't think the NFL likes those big tailgates because they can't monetize it. Like, they're not making money off of it. And I think that, so they're going to set up some, it'll be, the whatever tailgate sponsored by, the Luxor Casino or something. Who knows what it'll be, but, so it won't be the same. But I'm with you, though. In terms of like the vibe of the city, it felt great. Like, that was a lot of fun. It felt like, it reminded me of, not to compare it to a college atmosphere because Vegas is not a college town, but like I live in Middle Tennessee, and like if you go to like Knoxville and you go to like a UT football game where there's 109,000 people that show up at Neyland Stadium, like literally the entire city of Knoxville becomes the tailgate. It's like the whole thing. Like, if you're driving around the city streets, like on your way to the stadium, which is right there next to the river, right there next to their downtown, it's like there's people tailgating like on the street, like in the medians and like any grassy, like open areas in front of businesses. And like the whole city is a giant tailgate. And that's more like, even though Vegas was obviously it's geared to the casinos and the strip and all that, it reminded me of that because it was like every place you went, it was like firing on for the Raiders. Like everybody was flying flags and like, you know what I mean? Like it just felt like everywhere you went, the Raiders were being
Raider Nation was there. Yeah,
yes, all the businesses like with their signage up, and like all the casinos had Raiders stuff hanging up out front, like especially all the Caesars. Is it Caesars or MGM? I forget which one of the big brands is the sponsor.
MGM owns a lot of it.
Okay, I couldn't remember because like Caesars had a big welcome to Vegas Raiders thing out front that we took pictures in front of. But anyways, yeah, just that whole idea that like all the businesses, all the community leaders, all the everyone's embracing the Raiders. And that's another thing that's new to us because Oakland, frankly, had been rejecting the Raiders for years. So like to now, and probably the majority of the Bay Area, now to be in a city where they're like, everyone's embracing them, from local government to local businesses to big conglomerates. Like the whole city is behind it. And that's awesome.
And Murf, I'm not sure if you've seen the new headquarters and training facilities, but my goodness.
Oh, it's beautiful. You know, Darren McFadden ain't rolling an ankle out there on that practice turf, right? You know what I mean? Like, remember how bad all that stuff was for those years, man? Like, you know, so yeah, it's gorgeous, man. It's so nice that we have top-notch facilities, and I think it's gonna really prove valuable for us as we enter in this season of free agency. You know, that's a big deal. Like, I'm not trying to be a name dropper, but when we had Will Compton in here in the fan cave, we talked to him a lot about that. And he mentioned that. He's like, it's important to guys. Like, you know, it's more important than he said, this is his words. It's more important than I think fans even realize. Like, we want to be in a nice place. Well, the Raiders haven't been in a nice place for a really long time, both in playing facility and in training facility. And now we got them both. And we got state of the art, top notch in the NFL. I think it's freaking awesome.
Yeah. And one thing that I believe people miss is to have that top notch, top name, top everything in the NFL. This designs of stadiums are changing. The small stadium being localized and then stretching out to tailgate a few miles away. That's the way that stadiums are being built now. US Bank Arena, people take an Uber to go in. They don't stand out there outside across the street from there for hours and hours tailgating. It's just the way the NFL's moving. And that's the way, unfortunately, Las Vegas has moved. But I think that we're going to be able to hold on to quite a bit of what we brought over from Oakland. All right. Shifting our attention to the team itself. What is a big change you would really like to see on offense this year?
Wow, that's a great question. I guess, you know, without like trying to like pick a scheme thing or like be, you know, like, because I can appreciate what John Gruden's West Coast offense is. I mean, I know it's not the most like engaging thing to watch at times, but when it's working, it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty to watch. Yeah. So like I'm a fan of what John's trying to do. So I don't feel like there's any like some big thing that like what I would like to see is I would like to see our young wide receivers take the big year 2 jump that, you know, Henry Ruggs was brought in. We had our pick of wide receiver in this last year's draft. And we knew that CeeDee Lamb and we knew that Jerry Jeudy had they were more pro ready. We knew that Henry Ruggs was going to be more of a developmental type player. Then those 2 guys that aren't Henry Ruggs went on and had pretty good rookie years. And then you also had Jefferson in Minnesota, who had a fantastic year. And so he, I think, is being held to, I don't want to call it an unfair standard because those guys did what they did and Henry didn't. But when you look at the history of the league, wide receivers don't really make a jump until you get to like year 2, year 3. So what I would really like to see to help us offensively is to see Ruggs and Bryan Edwards take big jumps in their second year because we're going to need them. I don't know if we're going to sign Aguilar or not. There's some reports out there that we're going to bring him back, but we don't have a lot of money into the cap right now. As of right now, we're $7 million over what the projected cap is going to be. So there's a lot of, you know, and considering that we really need to spend all of our money on defense. So we're going to need those guys. And, you know, as much as I can get, you know, wowed by a free agent, as much as I can be wowed by the talk of Allen Robinson or Julio Jones or I don't know, whoever. Like, there's been so many different names that have been thrown out there because there's so many Twitter GMs. So, like, you know, as much as I would love to see that, I'm rooting for our guys that we drafted to be great. And I've said this for a long time that I feel that Derek Carr misses Michael Crabtree way more than he misses Amari Cooper. I think that he misses Andre Holmes. I think he misses those big guys that have vice grips for hands, that can go up high point of football and bully it away from somebody. And that's why they drafted Brian Edwards. And we unfortunately didn't see him play to that capability until the end of the year against the Broncos. But that's what he does, and that's what he does well. And so I'd love to see, are they going to be a 1-2? I don't know, but think about it like this, Raider Nation. Isn't that what we really want? Like, do you really want them to go out and get AJ Green? Do you really want them to go out and like spend $15 million on some guy? I don't. I'd rather see them excel with the guy that we're paying $500,000 on his rookie contract and go out and sign us a high priced, freaking safety or something. Like, that's where I would rather see the money go. So that's what I think needs to change, is that we need the young players on offense to make the big jump. And I'm confident that they will.
And if Brian Edwards can just stay healthy, I think he's going to be the freaking man.
The other thing to remember is that we still got Tyrell Williams under contract. He's really a number 2, but if you bring back Aguilar, then I think you got a good speed at number 1 and then a solid number 2. And then that gives Edwards time to rotate and get a little bit more comfortable in the offense. The offense is pretty good. One thing I'd like to see, and I need to do my research because all that's coming up, as far as free agency and the draft. But I want to see us get a big back. In this previous episode, we talked about how in the second half of the season, our running backs, we're only getting 94 yards instead of 100 plus yards a game. I think at the end of the season, we need that big back that can come in there and be wearing down these defenses, hitting them hard, at the end of the season. And then you let Josh Jacobs sneak in there at the end, at the end of the game and really keep us in control, because our offense is not that far off from being a playoff offense. You know what I mean? And we do got people like Tyrell Williams coming back. We need to be more concerned, I think, about Brown, right? And then Good, or at least a backup for Good, because Incognito may not be coming back. But, I don't know. I think our offense is right there. Now, Murf, I really agree with you when you talk about our younger players need to step up, but I think that's more so on the defensive side. Like I said, Williams can come back. We still got Waller on the offensive side, Aguilar. Those guys are veterans. But on the defense, those young guys need to step up. Too many times, we saw Abram blow a coverage, like when we were playing Kansas City and Las Vegas. He came up and left Kelsey wide open in the end zone. He did the same thing on the 90-plus yard touchdown from the Broncos rookie wide receiver. You know what I mean? So small things like that. Max Crosby, right? Instead of setting the edge, he always crashes down. Small stuff like that. You talked about free agency signing at the free safety position. I'd almost rather see Joyner go, back to free safety. Heidi's been calling for that all year, because we got to get our money's worth out of these defensive players that we've paid for already. Carl Nassib was basically a bust. Malik Collins was a bust. You know what I mean? Corey Littleton was supposed to be this great linebacker and didn't do jack shit, So, I mean, I don't know. On the defensive side, though, I think that's where it's really important that these players take a huge jump.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. Absolutely. And hopefully with the new defensive coordinator, somebody like a Gus Bradley coming in, we'll bring that, this is the guy that built the Legion of Boom, right? So hopefully that will carry over with the young players on our secondary. And then, and I think the Raiders need a lot on defense. I mean, we'd love to see an interior pass rush. We'd love to see, or at least just an interior push. You know what I mean? Not even old pass rush, but just a push up the middle would be nice. And the good news is on that is that, if the Raiders could find a way to free up money, and it's not really hard. If you look at the Chiefs, man, like they blow it out with contracts. It's because they're always like restructuring guys. So it's not hard in the NFL to restructure contracts. The Raiders are going to come up with some money. And there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of guys like Melvin Ingram and, whatever. That's just one name. But there's a bunch of pass rushers. There's Bud Dupree's out there. Like, there's a lot of guys out there that can bring a lot of, if you look at you sign Leonard Williams and Melvin Ingram, all of a sudden the complexion of our defense is completely different than what it was last year. And so I don't think it's going to take much. And that's where I would like to see the Raiders do something a little more, quote, splashy. And then before we move on to, I want to compliment something you just said about the big back. Jalen Richard's a nice player. He's a nice, utility player, third down guy. But I think for what we're paying him, really, I don't see the value fairly exchanged there. It would be nice to see us bring in somebody that's a little more change of pace. I don't even know who that would be, but I'll tell you, one of my favorite Raiders ever is that I know you guys remember Zach Crockett. And one of my favorite stat lines about Zach Crockett was, if you look at the years 2002 and 2003 combined, he had 88 carries for 263 yards and 15 touchdowns. Like, that's all they did with him. Where you're inside the 5-yard line, give it to Zach. You know what I mean? It's like, that's it. And that's the guy to punch it in there. And while I did like the Raiders getting a little more creative on the goal line, Josh Jacobs going over the top, Derek Carr actually doing a sneak. God forbid the guy actually sneak once in a while, John. Like, it was nice to see that. If Tom Brady's 43-year-old ass can sneak, Derek Carr ought to be able to. So it's nice to see that. But like, I'm with you. I'd love to see us get a bruiser. And I think, just some sort of change of pace, like, because I felt like Jalen Richard was just like a shorter, maybe scattier version than Josh Jacobs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't
Booker
insane.
also.
There wasn't really that kind of like that disruptive pace change. And that would be kind of cool to see someone like that come in.
I remember the days when we had Darren McFadden and Michael Bush.
There you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful, right? That was such a great 1-2 punch. Absolutely. And if it wasn't for injuries, man, don't get me started on the year 2010, man. We got robbed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think you've actually answered my fourth question, Murf.
I talk a lot, Heidi.
Yeah. Do you just want to go on ahead, T3?
Sure. Now, Murf, of all the Raider-related interviews that you've done, what would you say is your most memorable interview, and what made it that way?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, I'll give you two. And one because, so I'm a 47-year-old dude. I grew up as a fan of the Raiders of the 70s, not because I even remember them. Like, I was, 3 years old when not quite 4, when the Raiders won their first Super Bowl, right? Like, my memories of those 70s Raiders came from my uncles and my dad and all those people that I was talking about at the top, telling stories about, kick him in the head, Ted, and the assassin, and of course Snake and Twos, and Otis Sistrunk, the man from Mars, and, the Soul Patrol, and all those, wonderful players. And they became like superheroes to me. And so, I'd read comics and all that kind of stuff as a kid, but the Raiders of they were larger than life. Like, Shell and Upshaw were like, and my Uncle Murf he would record NFL films, highlights of the Raiders. And then he would play them for me on VHS and be like, look at these guys and look at them pull out of here. And look at look at Shell and Upshaw just taking people out and and so those guys were just massive to me. So that said, we interviewed Phil Villapiano before the Super Bowl 3 years ago, I guess it was. And so as a fan, as a kid growing up and hearing stories about Foo and all that kind of stuff, that was a big deal. That was so and that was for myself, that was the most fanboyed I'd ever been around, an interview, and we've gotten some great opportunities to meet some really cool people from, whatever. I don't want to, not trying to be a name dropper here, but we've met, we met Mark Davis and we met Fred Biletnikoff and we met, just we went to the Biletnikoff dinner a couple of years ago and we met Raymond Chester and we met Tom Flores and we met but Foo, I was freaking out. I was giddy when we were talking to Foo. But all that said, Foo is Foo. Foo is the greatest storyteller in all Raider Nation. All you got to do is ask him a question, and he's Foo. He just goes. So our interview didn't do anything special. I don't feel like we broke any ground because we just turned on the microphone and said, "Hey, Phil, how's it going?" And then there he goes, right? So I think my favorite one, so that was most memorable to me as a fan, but my most memorable, I think the best one we've ever done was Randy Hansen. If you guys remember, Randy Hansen was the secondary coach for the Raiders that got knocked the F out by Tom Cable, got his job broken. So we did a 3-part thing with Randy Hansen because he talked so much that I couldn't get off the phone with him to make kind of like you guys with me right now. He didn't stop talking. And so we ended up doing an hour and a half. And then he goes, "I got more to tell you about Nnamdi Asomugha. Call me back tomorrow." And I'm like, okay. So I called him back. So we ended up with this 3-part interview that was fascinating. And if anybody's if you've never heard it, it's on our YouTube channel. I called it the Randy Hansen tapes because I was trying to harken back to the old the uncovered story kind of thing. You know what I mean? We made it all dramatic and stuff. I don't know if a lot of what he says was true or if they were delusions of grandeur. But like, he goes on and talks about how he and Al Davis had intimate conversations about Randy becoming the GM, like all this like fascinating stuff that was coming out of this guy. And we were there for that. This was before he kind of like, he went around and did some other podcasts after ours, but when he did ours, that was the first one. And he told me, he's like, I want to get my story out and I want to use your platform. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And it was wild, man. He's got some wild tales. And now he like, lives in the Caribbean on an island and like is completely removed from society and whatever. But like, I said all that crazy stuff about him, but I will say this too: incredibly kind, incredibly gracious, like very like, you know what I mean? He was a good interview. He like I said, I don't know if he was, I don't think he was like lying, but some people will spin up a story and believe a thing and it seems far-fetched. And I don't know, but maybe that's why him and Tom Cable didn't get along. I don't know, but like, it was just it's a really interesting interview to listen to. And so I'm pretty proud of that one because that was something that we did. It wasn't just us getting somebody cool like Phil on the show and letting Phil be Phil.
You got the major scoop on that. So I've got my homework for me this week. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, talking to Coach Hansen is awesome, man. That guy will talk to you for hours and hours, and he does got some great stories, man. He's a real cool guy. He introduced me to Jeremy Brigham also, so yeah, man. And the Randy Hansen tapes, man, those are really good episodes. If you haven't heard those, go check them out. I enjoyed that, man. I did a lot. I was listening to them before I did my little interview with him, so I can kind of like build around it and follow it, because he's got a great story. He's got more to talk about too,
Yeah, and he's been like, he'll pop into our chat room once in a while and stuff. We're doing our show. Like, he's a super cool guy. So, like, yeah, I hope my comments didn't come across as like dogging the guy on me because it's not. But I think even he would tell you, like, it sounds far fetched. Like, it's
right
when you say, hey, Al Davis told me that I was going to be the GM, and when I told Tom Cable that, he didn't like it, and knocked me out of a desk. Like,
but John Kingdon came on our podcast and he was also on my channel, and I asked him about Randy Hansen. He said, yeah, I liked Randy Hansen. He was a good guy. He said that, he kind of, was in good favor. He talked to a lot of people around there. He had, he kind of backed him up a little bit, said that he was a good guy, good coach. So, I think that, Randy Hansen just caught a raw deal with Tom Cable. But yeah, some of the shit that he talks about is kind of hard to believe, to tell you the truth, but you never know. Those guys are cool too. Kingdon and Steve Corcoran, who wrote the book Behind the Raiders Shield. Those guys are great too. Absolutely. That was one that was on my list of people up there. Can I give you one more little footnote on that?
Absolutely.
Because we've done I don't know if you know this or not. Also, we are 0 for 6 on Raiders. Every Raider we've ever interviewed has either been cut, traded, or released from the team within months of us. And I told Compton that when we had Compton, that was one. I mean, had Compton live here in the fan cave, which was amazing. And I told Compton that. I said, hey, you're probably not going to be a Raider, dude, because everybody we've interviewed gets cut or released. And so then he ended up signing with the Titans. But oh shoot, where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought.
One more interview, another interview. Side note
on one. Oh crap! Let's move on because I don't want to stall us, but I'll think of it.
All right. Yeah. Well, getting back to the Raider Nation. So giving back to the community has been such a huge part of our tradition. So can you tell us a little bit about the One Nation Foundation, how it's grown, and how fans can be a part of it?
Thank you. Yeah. So the One Nation Foundation, I started with Raider Cody. When we realized that our show had the ability to make money, and we knew that we could monetize some things, and we were getting approached by advertisers and things like that, we knew right away, we being Mosh and I, my Uncle Mosh, we were like, we want to give it away. That, we're blessed with good jobs and have stability in our lives financially. And we do this because we love it. I love the Raiders. I love Raider Nation. And so that's why we do it. And so in the spirit of all of those booster clubs, I thought, well, heck, man, if they can give them their money away, then we can too. So we did a fundraiser for the Bolitnikoff Foundation and had the good fortune of presenting our check live, that was the ultimate fan moment. Like, being up on stage with Fred and Angela and Lincoln Kennedy and presenting that check will go down as my all-time favorite moment as a fan. It was incredible. But anyways, so we had this really wonderful experience with that. And then Cody, went and blew us out of the water with the fundraising that he did. He actually reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, tell me about what you do with Bolitnikoff. I'm thinking about doing something of my own." And Cody ended up raising $20,000 for the Greater Youth Sports Association.
That is just awesome.
It's insane. Of Las Vegas. And so after he did that, Cody and I have become, friends, and we were talking one day, and he was like, "Hey man, like, let's do something together. Like, let's not make it about our shows. Let's not make it about our brands. Let's do something together though, and see what we can do. Cause I think collectively we can raise, even more money," and which was a great idea. So we formed the One Nation Foundation. So it's a nonprofit organization. It's a 501(c)(3). It's, you can donate to it numerous ways. Thank you, all three of you, by the way, for your very generous donation today to the One Nation Foundation. We appreciate that. You can go to onenationfoundation.net and you can donate directly there. You can also, we're on Amazon Smile, which is a way that a portion of the proceeds for anything that you buy on Amazon doesn't cost you anything extra, but a portion of that money will come to One Nation Foundation. Of course, we do the thing through our super chat and on our YouTube show. And there's numerous ways that you can give to the One Nation Foundation. And so we take that money and then we give it to various Raiders related charities. The first one that we gave to this year was Kenny King Jr.'s mom, Kenny King Sr.'s, of course, famous Raiders fullback, his wife, Allison. She is re-engaging with a cancer battle that she had been in remission from. And so we donated money to her fight against cancer. We just donated money to the Stabler XOXO Foundation. Next up is going to be Bolitnikoff again. Then we're probably going to go back to the Greater Youth Sports Association of Vegas. Then who knows where it's going to go? I don't know, because it's the support that we've been given. And thank you for the platform for me to talk about it. The support that Raider Nation has given us in this effort has just blown me away. And so any of the money that we get from our show, I don't know, I want to say the same for Cody, but I know a good portion of what he does, he generates too. And he also, Cody's really good at rallying people together. Cody's got such a really good following on social media and whatnot. We'll do jersey raffles and things like that. And Cody will get he'll get thousands of people contributing to these things and participating in these things. It's fascinating. So thankful for the work that he's done in it. But just blows me away, what we've been able to do with it. And so we're going to keep it rolling. It's been one of the prouder things. I'm not patting myself on the back here, but it's one of the things that I've been prouder of in terms of, what we've done with this whole fan. Because again, I forget which one of you said it earlier tonight, but it's the truth, man. It's here's this football team we all root for. It's just a football team. And it's, look at what it's blossomed, and it's not me, and it's not Cody. It's the foundation is supported by everybody that's listening to us right now. Everybody that listens to the Murf Fan Cave channel and the Raider Cody channel and Pillaging channel, all those people that are all over social media and pay attention to this stuff. That's who does it, man. And we're just the vessel. I'm just the voice. You know what I mean? Then that's easy. It's hard to, for all those people to make those sacrifices and make those contributions and to do all those things. And so I couldn't be more thankful and more grateful to Raider Nation and the support. And again, including the three of you, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I don't care what records are year in and year out, but you can go around the league, any sport, and you will not find a dedicated group like the Raider Nation.
Got that
right.
That
is absolutely true.
The only nation.
So speaking of that, it reminded me what I was going to say. So out of all the interviews we've ever done, from players, media members, celebrities, all that stuff, the most listened to podcast we've ever had with an interview was Pastor Mondo Leone of the Raider Nation Ministries. We had him on twice.
Really?
Yeah. And the second time we had Pastor Mondo on, the freaking numbers went through the roof. And is still to this date, not only the highest rated interview, but the highest and most listened to show we've ever done on the audio. We didn't do a YouTube show back then, but in terms of our audio listens, that was by far the highest and the most we've ever gotten was Pastor Mondo. And what a blessing he is, man. If you don't know who he is, you can just Google him, Pastor Mondo Leone, Raider Nation Ministries, and he's all over the place. The coolest freaking guy.
Yeah, I'm in his Facebook group.
Oh, there you go.
All right, note to Murf, you got to get Randall Cunningham on now.
Randall Cunningham? Why, you trying to get him cut?
You can't cut him from the squad he's on now.
Oh, that's right. Like, it's funny that like we people all the time go, "Hey, man, when are you going to have Patrick Mahomes on the show?"
Tonight.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, why didn't you bring Gunther on last year?
I know, right? I
Oh,
tried.
no kidding.
I tried to get Paul Gunther on repeatedly, man. He wouldn't come on. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Well, he knew he would be facing some fiery darts.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Murph, thank you for coming on to our show. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our fans while you have the chance?
Yeah, just hang in there, Raider Nation. It's tough, man. Like, none of us like 8-8. I don't like 8-8. Al Davis didn't like 8-8, so I don't like 8-8. And considering how hot we started, and you look at the games today, 3 of the 4 teams we beat. So we were coming from a really great spot earlier in the season before everything kind of flamed out. But lock into what the Raiders did do well, lock into what the Raiders are and not what the Raiders aren't, because we can all sit around and go, well, they should have drafted this guy and they should have done this and they should have done that. Well, let's lock into what they did do. Let's look at that. Let's have faith in that. Because what else are you going to do? Henry Ruggs ain't going anywhere. So root for him, support him. Do your best to stay in the positive side of it. And then ultimately I say this is that it doesn't matter. It does matter, but it doesn't matter what the team does on the field. What matters to me is that I know it's tough. It's not, in a non-COVID world, we're getting together with our families. We're getting together with our friends. We're getting together as community of fans, and we're celebrating this team that we love. And that doesn't change. When the Raiders went to New York last year and stunk it up against the Jets, not this recent, but I mean the last year when they went and it was blistering cold outside and it was nasty weather and the Raiders, turned in a crappy game. Like, I listened to the guys from like the New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole and like their tailgate experience, the community that they had in the stands, going back and forth with Jets fans, all that. That doesn't change. Like, that didn't change because the team sucked. So just like try to lock into that, because reason I say that is that because that's what will lift your spirits. Raider Nation won't let you down. We don't lose. Raider Nation doesn't take L's. The Raiders might take a bunch, but we never will. Because as long as we're doing the right things, we're representing ourselves and our communities in a way that makes them proud, and we're giving back as much as we can, we're winning all the time. So that never will change.
Amen to that.
Sounds great.
Thank you all.
All right, Murph, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. This has been a lot of fun, y'all. Great job on your show, too, by the way. And sorry I hogged up the airwaves for 47 minutes, but congratulations on your success. Keep it going. And like I said, I don't listen to shows week in, week out, but I definitely, especially when I'm going to come on one, I always check out, what's going on. And I hope you all are really proud of what you're doing and keep up the good work, man. I love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Hey, before you get out of here, man, are you coming to Texas? Are you going to be in Dallas?
I'd love to, man. Are we playing at Dallas this year, right?
Next year, yeah. It's going to be Dallas.
As long as it's not over Thanksgiving. I hope it's not the Thanksgiving game.
We'll just have to wait and see what the schedule does.
Especially because we get our ass kicked by Dallas on Thanksgiving usually, too.
Historically, yes. It's awful.
Yeah. I would love to, Homer.
Yeah, because TNBC, the Black Hole, and Black Pirates, we're all looking to do a tailgate there. And, so...
Oh, I would love to be there for that. I appreciate the invite, and absolutely, I would love to do that.
All right, cool.
So many
I'd have
great
to come in from Alaska for that.
That would be awesome.
There's a lot. I tell you, when you look at like the heat map of our show, and I see where like Raider fans are listening to us from, it's fascinating to me. Of course, a lot of it's Los Angeles and the Bay Area and whatnot, but Texas, man, Texas is strong with Raider fans.
When I went to the Houston game last year, I just walked around and some of the Houston fans were amazed. They're like, where are all these Raider fans coming from? I was like, what are you talking about? We're here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we got sent one of those, sign up for our data on your podcast, listens type emails. And we ranked in, what was it? Like 80th in Denmark for football.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And like around there in Mexico for football as well. So it was just kind of.
Hey, man, European Raider fans are strong, man. There's a lot of them over there. I love Silver and Black UK. I don't know if you all have if you ever have a chance to get any of those folks on your show, Keith Smith or Ollie DeRuyter or any of those guys, get them on, man. They are absolute blast. That's a top-notch booster club, man. Those guys and gals are doing it right.
I wish I'd had a chance to go over to London last year.
Yeah, me too, man. Kevin the Raider Nerd, our buddy, has been over there to a couple times. And then King Louie, who actually lives in the same small town I do here in Tennessee, he went over there 2 years ago, brought me back a flag. All the stuff that I mentioned is here in the fan cave hanging up behind me. He brought me the from October 2018. And just, yeah, man, it's really cool experience from everything he had to tell me about it. And they do more than just like the game, right? They do all kinds of activities. Like they do all these bus tours, and they'll go to like a soccer game.
Yeah,
they'll do all kinds of stuff, man.
They had like a Raider pub crawl one time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool stuff, man. All right, I've kept you guys hostage enough. Thank you for having
me. Thanks again.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
All right,
thank you so much. All right, thanks again, Murf, for coming by and chatting with us. We really appreciate you spending time with us and gracing us with your wisdom.
Yeah, it's always cool to hear from Murf. You know, he's got a great show. Make sure you subscribe to his channel on YouTube. Yeah, I got to see him a couple of times, and he took the time to talk, just like any, Raider fan, Raider personality does. So, it's a great thing to be a part of this fan base with people like Murf. So thanks, Murf, for coming on.
Just like Murf said numerous times, as much as we're all Raider fans, the Raider Nation has just taken on a life of its own. And you cannot get too much of content when it comes to Raider fans. We are everywhere, and we bring so much fun and so much life to the NFL. Without the Raiders, the NFL wouldn't be half as fun as it is. And I just enjoy being a part of it each and every week with you two.
Likewise.
Definitely.
All right, Raider Nation, we want to hear from you. This is the Only Nation podcast, so we want to hear from the Only Nation. Tell us what you thought about Murf's interview. Tell us what you think is going to happen in this free agency, in this draft coming up. Start bouncing some ideas around, guys. Let's go. We want to hear from the Only Nation, so give us a call at 904-701-8667.
And this week, we've got a call from Houston Raider Steve, and we are using it in place of our Homer Did You Know?
I'm probably not going to know, but Steve, I appreciate the call, brother.
Houston Raiders Steve, this day in Oakland Raiders history, January 18th, 1946 in Natchez, Mississippi, Charlie Smith, a great running back, was born. He went to East Oakland High School, which later became known as Castlemont. It was redone for earthquake safety and everything. He played for the Raiders from 1968 to 1974. He was drafted in the 1960 NFL Draft, round 4, pick 110. When he was at Castlemont High School, he was an all-city track star at Castlemont. He went to Bakersfield Junior College, where he was a junior college All-American. He played both halfback and end at Utah, where he transferred, and was ranked third in the nation in 1967 in kickoff returns, running back 27 returns for 544 yards, including one for 102 yards. As a senior, Charlie scored 10 touchdowns at Utah. With the Raiders, he led an excellent rookie season in 1968, and then in 1975, he played for the San Diego Chargers. His rushing attempts for his career: 858 rushing attempts for 3,351 yards, receptions, 141 receptions, 1,596 yards, and he had 34 TDs. What he's most known for is in the Heidi game, November 17th, 1968, the very first Raiders game I saw as a child living in Chicago, and he scored the go-ahead touchdown in the Heidi game over the Jets, the game that the people east of the Mississippi never saw the end. The people on the West Coast, I believe, saw the conclusion of the game, but we never saw. When the Jets landed back in New York, they thought that they had obviously won the game, and they said no. One of the players told one of the fans that walked up to him, no, we actually lost the game. So many people, especially in New York, blew up the switchboard in New York and with all the phone calls saying, how come you didn't show the game? I remember that game very distinctly. They had the Timex ads, and of course, in the most dramatic moment, when they cut to it, there was showed Heidi on the mountain with the goat, and also at the end when she fell on the ground, was trying to crawl, they showed the crawler at the bottom of the screen saying that the Raiders had indeed won against the Jets that day. I thought that's kind of weird. Anyway, that's my day, January 18th, Charlie Smith, his birthday.
That damn Heidi, always screwing things up.
Yeah, that's exactly what Johnny Sample would say. Little girl coming in, ruining my life all over again. And I actually remember that game. That's the first Raider game I actually saw. And of course, I was only 6 years old, and we were waiting to see Heidi. So didn't know until the next day that the Jets had actually won. When they actually put the crawler across the bottom of the screen, we all thought it was a misprint.
All right, shout out to Houston Raider Steve. Thanks for calling in. I was talking a little bit about Steve in the interview with Murf. Steve was a season ticket holder in Oakland, and because of the podcast, he invited me to do the flag unfurling. We got to go down there. I got to get in the south end zone. It was awesome. So thanks again, Steve. I appreciate the memories, brother.
Hey, Steve, remember, the Raiders are going to be in Dallas next year.
And I'd like to personally thank Houston Raider Steve to getting Raider Homer out on that flag unfurling, because I know the way he talks about it, what a huge gift it was to him.
That's an epic moment.
How many times have I talked about this on this podcast?
Every week.
It's something that is very dear to his heart, and I thank you for that. As his friend, I thank you for that. All right, and that about does it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us on the Only Nation podcast. This is Heidi, and you can find me on social media at Kepler Prom Dress on Twitter or on Instagram, or you can find me as Heidi Stabbert on Facebook.
Okay, Raider Nation, here's all the important information you need to get a hold of us. You can give us a call at 904-701-8667 and leave a voicemail, or you can also text that number. You can also email us at onlynationpod@gmail.com, and you can find us on both Twitter and Instagram by going to @onlynationpod. We're also on Facebook and YouTube at Only Nation Podcast. You can also find me, Raider Homer, on social media by searching Raider Homer on Facebook and Raider Homer Channel Group on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube by searching Raider Homer, and you can find me on Twitter at Homer Raider and Instagram by searching Raider Homer. That's a lot. Just find one of them if you don't mind. I'd appreciate the follow. Thank you.
And this is T3 once again reminding you how important it is for the growth of this show for us to get your input. Be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite social media account and podcasting app. Make sure to leave your name, address, and phone number. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget that we can use on one of our upcoming episodes and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the Only Nation, and we want you to be part of it. So call us, 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. And you can find me on social media, on Twitter at T3_sports703, on YouTube at T3 Sports Guy, and on Facebook at Tom, THOM Jones.
As always, we look forward to hearing from you guys. Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
And remember, we are not just a nation, we are the only nation.